Hey class, so the last video in this section deals with half angles. So these are the formulas we want to take a look at for half angle values. With these, we have x over 2, which shows us the half. And we have sine, cosine, and tangent for each of them. And you'll notice that they have each separate formulas, where sine will always have a subtraction in here of cosine, and with cosine we'll always add that value. Now you'll notice there'll be plus and minuses out here. We'll take a look at those in a second, what those actually mean for us. So definitely make sure you know your half angle identities. We're going to use these formulas for your test and other values. So let's look at this first example. It says use your half angle identities to find cosine of 22.5. When we are using half angles, we're not actually going to use the 22.5. What you want to use is 22.5 is half of what value? So I know if I take 22.5 and multiply it by 2, because I know it's half of some angle, I get 45 degrees. So that is the value we're really going to use. And we know we're using cosine. So I'm going to plug this value in. I have cosine of 45 over 2. That's what got us to the 22.5. And we're going to continue to plug this in. So plus and minus the square root of 1 plus cosine of 45 all over 2. Let's talk about this plus or minus value. This plus or minus is telling us what this 45 or this half angle is. So where is this angle actually located at? Well, we know that this degrees is actually in quadrant 1. Okay? So we know that that would make it a positive value. Anything in quadrant 1 will always be positive. So honestly, we could erase this values here and know that we're just going to have, take that away. We're just going to have a positive value there. And then we can actually fill out the rest of this. So I know cosine of 45 is square root of 2 over 2. So 1 plus square root of 2 over 2 all over 2. And the easiest way for us to simplify this is to get rid of this 2 right here in the denominator. We don't want to deal with all of these fractional values. So I'm going to multiply everything by 2. So multiply every single value by 2. So I know 2 times 1 will get me 2. 2 times square root of 2 over 2, I know these 2's will cancel, so I'm left with plus square root of 2. And then 2 times 2 is 4 at the bottom. But remember, all of this is underneath a square root value. So we need to simplify it. I know the top portion, I can't take a square root of a 2, and I can't take the square root with a square root of a 2. So this top portion, 2 plus square root of 2, is going to remain the same. But you also got to deal with the bottom. Can we take the square root of 4? And we know we can. So that will become 2. So what we're able to do is leave it in this form, because we can't divide these 2's or simplify them, because part of it is in radical and some is not. So that is the final value that you're going to end up using. So I'm going to have to erase these, so make sure you pause the video if you need to check out these steps again. I'm going to make some room for us to do the bottom one here. So with the bottom one, you notice that I tried to use tangent. I wanted us to be able to have some different values instead of just using sine and cosine every single time. I want us to be able to look at all of the different functions. So remember, you are finding the whole of this half. So 75 is half of my value. So I'm going to do 75 times 2, which turns out to be 150 degrees. So that is the value that I'm going to plug in. So tan of 150 over 2 equals 1 minus cosine of 150 all over sine of 150. So we're going to be able to just go to our unit circle. Definitely make sure you pull that up if you've forgotten these values and plug in what we know. because cosine of 150, remember cosine is those x values, turns out to be negative square root of 3 over 2. And then I know sine happens to be 1/2. Okay, once again, those are straight from your unit circle. So I'm going to simplify this a little bit because I know the top I have a negative negative. So I'm going to have 1 plus square root of 3 over 2 all over 1/2. Okay. So again, since we have all of these denominators of 2, it would be very easy for us to just multiply everything by 2 to cancel those values out. So I know 2 times 1 is 2. I know that the 2's here would cancel when I would multiply, so I have square root of 3. And in the bottom, these 2's would cancel when I multiply because half of 2 is 1. And we don't need to leave that 1 there, so I would have 2 plus the square root of 3. And then you would be left. That is all you have. That should be your final solution for tangent. And you notice with tangent it doesn't have plus or minus because when we plug in these cosine and sine functions, they will cancel out the sines for us. But make sure with sine and cosine, you definitely take a look at your plus and minus. Remember, you're looking at the original function, so that's why with 22.5, we knew it was in quadrant 1, so we had a positive value.